Well, welcome to our second round of the Elite Agency Builders call here. Welcome to all of you Owners Pack holders. My name is Miranda Martin. I am direct to one of the best guys ever, Ryan Miller, and I've got my compadre on the line here, Mr. I Love London. How's it going?
I love London. Good day, Mata.
Okay, so we're actually not going to be talking about building today. We're just going to be talking about London the whole time. Oh boy, I am just so excited. How about you, John, to kind of get this show on the road here this morning?
Buddy, honestly, I am super fired up. We got, I wish I would have looked it up, but I know it's right around maybe 70 days, if you will. And there's truly no better time to start, right? We all get this kind of like anxiety after conference of, all right, well, I want to start building, but I don't necessarily need to push people to conference or really kind of get the ball rolling just yet. Um, so yeah, I mean, the idea here would be is definitely like kind of really hitting this hard, and we talk about a 90-day madman cycle, and if you really kind of haven't started down this path yet, let's call it a 70-day madman cycle, right? And just push as hard as we possibly can to really get this ball rolling. So I'm fired up. I know that there's a lot of people under my hierarchy that are moving, shaking, and jiving, and then there's a handful of them that really just kind of let go after we kind of let off a little bit with some of that ZipRecruiter stuff, and it's like definitely wish I could just do the work for you guys to kind of get really what you want out of this thing. So just love these calls, Mur, and kind of doing them with you, and then the two people that we have on today. I really, truly, wholeheartedly couldn't think of anyone better to join our call and really kind of help push this movement that we're getting ready to tackle. So super excited, bud. Super, super, super.
All right. So before we kind of dive into the meat and potatoes, I just wanted to set up two initiatives for everyone this morning. Again, we're doing this call now every 2 weeks until conference. So starting today and then every 2 weeks from now, actually it's next week we have one, John, and then it's every 2 weeks after that. So because we skipped last week. So get ready next Wednesday again. It's going to come quick. But guys, I just want, for those of you that are taking notes, I really had some time to reflect back and just kind of evaluate on two things that I think are just absolutely non-negotiables. And they're two measurable top priorities that I think are really important for us to all wrap our heads around. Commonly, I'll be talking to an agent or an agency owner, and they're like, you know what, just isn't moving as fast as I want it to be. So my first question is, how many people are you interviewing a week? And my second question, or along the same lines, is how many packets are you getting back a week? And then on top of that, how many people are you going to have at conference, and how many did you have last time? Because outside of that, guys, building an agency is an activity monster. The more activity you do, just like dials, the more dials you do, the more people you get in front of. And I guess, let me ask you, John, if you were running the field and you considered yourself serious producer, but you're only running like 2 or 3 appointments a week, can you really expect to kind of keep yourself afloat and make magic happen here at Symmetry as a producer with just a couple of appointments a week?
No, hell no, actually.
Okay.
I mean, it's absolutely impossible, right?
So with this, I kind of ask you guys the same thing. If you're not putting the recruiting numbers per week on your interview count on steroids, how in the world can you expect to build an agency quickly with a couple interviews a week, right? So for me, John, I know when I just kind of reflect back on the last couple of years when you and I kind of linked arms and said, we're going to make this happen, the one thing I can tell you that never, ever happened, we never let our foot off the recruiting gas pedal, not even for a second. It was a constant push, no matter what was going on, to get that interview count up. So I just wanted to remind everyone just what our recommendation is for interviews for those of you that are like seriously looking to build an agency. If you're new on the line, just doing like 10 or 15 a week is something just to kind of get your toe in the water. But I assume that all of you guys on this call that invested in an owner's pack are looking to 100,000% get this ball rolling in the next couple months in order to build your agency by next conference. So our recommendation is, if that's you, then you need to be doing at least 25 interviews a week. That second interview, so that the people have been sent the video, you call them back after that, with a target of 3 to 5 packets back a week. And I'm counting any packets returned, not just licensed people. And that way you're really building your infrastructure to get at least 10 people at the next conference, 10 to 15. Anything that you'd add to that, John?
Yeah, but again, if you're not finding yourself in this position of being able to get this many interviews a week, you need to get with the people that are. I know, for example, like Mark Nadeau is out there making it happen and constantly averaging, if I'm not mistaken, 25 to 35 per week. Is that correct, Mer?
No, 30. His goal is 50, and he gets around like 35 on a low week and 50 on the normal week. And he's just about to break out like this month.
Exactly. And so it's like hearing names like that. And I know, Brandon Willingham is out there making that happen right now too, and Jim Archer is out there making that happen. So what we really need to do is kind of understand where the numbers are at, who's doing what, and find out what they're doing in order to get there. Not saying that we need to take up a bunch of their time, but maybe it's something that we could do, Murs, next week, is get one of the 3 of those people on the line with us to find out what they're doing. Is it a matrix between Career Builder and ZipRecruiter and Craigslist, and exactly what they're doing? Like, we need to be throwing all of our resources, our additional resources at this to ensure that we're getting that amount of interviews per week. And so if you are kind of that new builder and you're looking for that 25 interviews a week and you're sitting on 6 or 8 right now, it's not enough. Okay, we promise that it's not enough. Go ahead, Mer.
And guys, some of you might be looking at these numbers going, wow, that's a lot, like 100 interviews a week. That's not one person. Okay, I know when my agency started hitting 100 interviews a week, I think there was like 4 or 5 of us. And I'm just adding anyone, you and anyone in your downline. So even if it's people 3 or 4 levels deep doing those interviews, I want you to count that as your total for the week. And I know once we kind of started jumping up onto those higher contracts, we just had more people that were building an agency, which helped us double and triple our interview counts, over the course of like 3 to 6 months. So without taking too much time on this, guys, I think that if you do have any questions, feel free to write them in the sidebar. We are going to be diving into this with our guests that we have on the line and just kind of getting some ideas on just how to get this pedal to the metal. But the second thing that I really wanted to just make sure is at the front of our mind, Casey Watkins always said that we get what we talk about. So now's the time to be talking about conference on every single conversation that you have with an agent. On every single conference call, we're going to be blasting out the conference leaderboards. I know in my agency, we're going to do it every week. One best practice that we had over the last couple conferences is we would congratulate those that had a conference registration. Congratulations to John Ziller, who just enrolled Joe Schmo for conference. Can't wait to meet you. And we just blasted it all the time, so we're constantly, keeping it in the front of mind. My recommendation to you all is look always to double the number of registrations you had last time. So if you had 10, the goal is 20. If you had 20, the goal is 40, so on and so forth. But sitting on where you guys are at, I know that my business completely changed when I brought 23 people to conference. After that, I think we were closer to that 80 mark, but it's crazy what can happen when you get, the buy-in of all the people that are serious on your team to just bring 10 people with them to conference. John, what would you say on that?
You know what, and not to really beat a dead horse here, but the reality is that the more people you get to conference, the less you ultimately have to build, right? Yeah. And so I can remember just kind of a big push. Is same thing. We had right around, I think it was 24 registrants for conference that had actually showed up, and this was like 3 conferences ago, if I'm not mistaken. And then that very next conference, we actually ended up with 44. And then this past conference, we actually ended up with 100, and I had only recruited 2 out of the 100 to get to that conference. So it's like the bigger your pipeline here, and the harder you push right now, and the more butts and seats that you get to the conference, the more you're instilling that vision into multiple people, which now your efforts are then multiplied, which kind of takes a lot of this pressure off of your shoulders. So the big push here to conference is really to kind of help you, so you don't have to push as hard as you possibly do, or as hard as you can forever. That you get to kind of, the more people you get to conference, the more you kind of get to graduate from this level and not have to do as much of the work. So love what you're talking about here, Mer.
Thanks, John. And one thing that really kind of helped me help the people on my team is I remember I spent a week with Ryan Mittler and Michelle probably about a year and a half ago, and we kind of sat there and we said, what do the people that are kind of like the leaders, the people that are serious about building an agency, what do they want? And I remember me and him called all the leaders on my team on a 3-way call. We said, so what do you want out of Symmetry? Well, I want to own an agency. And we're like, well, why? Like, tell me why that's important to you. And we kind of took an hour or so, half an hour or so, and just wrote down some goals and figured out why they needed it, wanted it, and then put an action plan together to do maybe 1 or 2 conference registrations per week up until conference. And I'm telling you, every single person on my team that we called exceeded their expectation. And it's, if that person, if you have a few people that bring 10 people, all of those people statistically are going to have their agency by next conference. And isn't that cool to know that in 6 months from now, you can help, a handful of people on your team get that? So that would be my recommendation, is sit down with the people that you're in business with and find out how they can get 10 people with them, because there's still lots of time to do that. So I'm going to just go through real quick. We've got our conference leaderboards. These are all of you guys that we have that have an owner's pack. And if there's a 0 next to your name, that means you haven't registered yourself yet. Okay. So by now we should at least have ourselves registered on our pack, and we actually have to go through a Lincoln Opt. They send you like a portal that you go into and you upload your conference attendees, which we have trainings on that if you've never done that before. But so you guys can see where everyone's at here. And then we've got the top of the leaderboard right now. We've got Ginger, who's already got 50% of her tickets sold. She brought 20. She's got 10 sold. We got Jim Archer with 6, Michelle Brock with 6, Dave Lappin with 5, Bloom with 4, Kushner with 4. And I know by now most of you guys haven't uploaded all of the people that you know are coming. So that's kind of your notification that we're going to start looking at this every week or 2. So, John, anything else that you want to add here?
No, same thing. I think it's just in regards to being very intentional about your numbers, and that's exactly what we're going to start doing every week, is really just kind of pulling out, right? So Dave Lappin, good job, pal. Ginger Licklider, awesome. 10 for 20. Jim Archer starting to get very intentional with it. Michelle Brock, again, great job. And then there's either 40% of the way or less. Like, let's really start being intentional with it. So yeah, I'm following suit with Mer here, and definitely going to start posting these numbers too. So again, just know and understand your numbers, I think, is what we were talking about before. And then understand exactly where you're at kind of moving forward. So not too much here for you, bud.
Awesome, guys. And the same thing, those of you that want to report your weekly appointment, your second interview goal, and your numbers and packets back, it's not something that we're going to hunt you down, but those of you that want to report your numbers on the Elite Builder string, we will start recognizing you guys on this call as well, because I think the number one thing for me is you got to track your business and know where you're at and where you're going. And if you're not doing that, that would be a very strong recommendation. I know in my agency, we look at that every single week. We're looking at our Google Calendar. We're tracking who picked up, who didn't, how many people, and just really kind of mining those numbers so that we can continue to get better. So without any further ado, we have two of the smartest minds in all of Symmetry that have so graciously taken time out of their schedule to help pour into you guys. These guys right here are probably one of the most fine-tuned speakers when you go to conference. So if you don't know who they are, they're the Wonder Twins. We've got Matt and Brad Smith on the line with us today. John, any more of an introduction before we open up the lines to these all-stars?
Yeah, honestly, you know, listening to them last week and really talk about a posture and mindset, it really kind of struck a chord with me. I'm like, gosh, these two are just so good. And it seems like just everything that they touch kind of turns to gold. And just like Miranda said, listening to some of their speeches from past and previous conferences, you know, I don't think I'll ever forget the Eagle. And I started laughing so hard as I had posted something and kind of shared your guys' video there. I had a buddy of mine go, "I'm an MF Eagle." And I started laughing because that was such a statement that you guys had made, and it was just so powerful, being the Eagle and flying over the storm. And I mean, I can remember every single one of your speeches for the 4 conferences that I've been to. And so I just appreciate your mind, your understanding of this business, your understanding of business in general. You know, and thank God that mattress the store failed on you, or whatever it was, that ultimately landed you guys here, that we now get to pick at your brains and understand really what's going on up there, and just kind of share this experience with you. So I'm so grateful for the two of you and how open you've been with the Miller Master hierarchy and allowing us to tap into the auto dialer and just really kind of just allow us to head down this journey with you. So thank you two so much. And again, Matt and Brad, welcome to our call.
Wow, thank you guys. That's awesome. Yeah, what an introduction. I hope this is recorded. I want to have my wife and kids listen to this. I think they'll get a good laugh at that. That's an honor to hear you guys talk about us like that. I mean, we've just kind of put our head down and worked hard, and you know, had some good motivation behind us to help us get here, but we can't really take a lot of the credit for it. So appreciate you guys having us on, though.
Man, well, thank you so much for hopping on. And again, so really, you know, there's a handful of things that we want to kind of talk to you about. But let me ask you, just kind of first and foremost, what we're just kind of going back to what you guys just heard with the interview count, and at least doing 25 per week for agency builders and 50 for serious builders. What were your guys' kind of ratios that you had seen? And really, when you're talking to a brand new person that's getting ready to kind of build, do you have them set up with some sort of matrix that they should be following and what they should be attacking, and kind of that side of it?
Yeah, this is Brad, and Matt, I definitely want you to touch on this because you orchestrate a lot of this stuff for the team, for our team. But what I love about what you guys are doing with this and going over those specific numbers is you have created a formula for people to have guaranteed success. Guaranteed. No questions asked. You do that, there's absolutely no way you can fail. Even if you're not a very good recruiter, even if you're not a very good producer, you're just by numbers, you will get there. And I can give you examples in my team that I've seen this happen, where they averaged 30, 35, 40 interviews every single week, and just by sheer willpower got themselves to agency owner, and now are some of the fastest growing teams in our agency. And everyone else with more talent, with more ability, who are watching a couple of guys in my agency that are doing exactly the same numbers you're talking about. The rest of the agency managers are watching these guys explode, and they're saying, what are they doing differently? I feel like I'm a better speaker. I feel like I'm a better producer. I feel like I've got more talent. Why are they blowing past us? And it's because they're doing more. Not that they're doing better, they're just doing more. So it's a guaranteed formula. And I was actually talking with Brian Delaney a few weeks ago about creating this exact formula that you're talking about, that people can have something tangible, that if I can just do this, I will get to agency owner and I will ultimately get to 110. Let me give you the symmetry numbers. Okay, write this down. 400, this is the formula for 110. Okay, so if you want to get to 110, this is what's going to have to happen. And this is if you're average, okay? 400 contracted agents. Out of 400 contracted agents, and this isn't you personally contracting 400. This is your entire team. So it's going to start with you. Then you're going to add a couple of running buddies, and then you're going to add a few more. And over time, if you have a total of 400 contracted agents, 200 will write at least one app. Okay? 200 will write an app. Out of the 200 that write an app, 50 of them will write apps every single month. Okay? Now you need 53 to get to 110. So you're about there, right? And the average agent is writing about a little over $6,000 a month, $6,400, $6,500 a month. So you can look at your team. My team writes an average of $7,300 a month. So it's going to be a little bit less. Some teams are writing less than $5,000 a month. So you look at your team's average production per agent, and if you do the math, you're right about $350,000 a month. That's the formula. So, you know, John, you hit the nail on the head. If you're or Miranda, you guys both did. If you're doing a couple of interviews a week, you're never going to get there. You got to have more volume, and it's not just about you. It's about getting duplication in the team, and that's where I think a lot of people struggle. Is they're trying to force everything to happen because they're doing it themselves. It's so much easier if you're doing 25 interviews a week, and you're working hard, or 30 or 40, whatever the number is. Let's just go with 25. Let's say that you're a part-time recruiter, and you're doing 25 interviews a week. If you add 3 more people doing that, now you're at 100 interviews a week. It doesn't take a lot. You just have to get duplication happening. So I love those numbers, and those are dead on.
Yeah, I'll even add to that, Brett, too. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yeah, bro.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I called in from my cell phone. I wasn't sure if I was on the host code or not. I love the numbers. One thing that I think a lot of people do is they focus only on the numbers, and they forget that we're dealing with people, we're dealing with families, and it's our job as managers, as mentors, to really ultimately, more than anything, help people get what they want out of life, help solve their problem, help them be happier, help them achieve whatever they think success is. And so yes, it's about getting these numbers. If you're not getting these numbers, you're probably not going to get to where you want to go. But ultimately, you're going to be way more impactful with these numbers if you are spending that time figuring out what they want out of life. What are they frustrated with? And then helping to pour in them and get them what they want, because not everybody wants to be a 110. Not everybody wants to be an agency owner. And some people want to get there fast. So, we're talking about formulas. Formula for what? If your goal is 110, great. This is the formula. But when you're talking to new people, you got to figure out what they're looking for and help put that formula together to get them where they want. And then as a whole, you're going to find the people that want to get to 110. You're going to find the people that they want to get to agency owner, and you end up getting to that position. I know with Brad and I, we never recruited 400 people on our site. A lot of times you can look at these numbers and you can get overwhelmed and think, well, it's going to take forever. I can't even imagine doing that. And I wouldn't have been able to imagine doing that in the very beginning. I think, Brad, how many people would you say we have personally recruited and contracted and we've got, at this point, I think thousands of people that have been contracted over the last 5 years. But it started with us in the beginning, and I want to say, if I were to guess, it'd be 30 or less. Would you agree with that?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, probably 30, yeah.
Probably 30 people that we've recruited and contracted over the last 5.5 years that have turned into thousands of people. And so if you look at the things that Brad and I have done really well and the things that we've done poorly, because there's a lot of things that we do really bad, and there's a few things that we do really, really, really good, really, really well. And what we do really, really, I'm not even sure what's proper there, well or good. What we do really good is duplication, getting people to duplicate. That is what we have been excellent at, taking 30 people over a 5.5-year period and turning them into thousands of people. That's duplication. And so, a lot of people get hung up on, well, where are you recruiting? Are you recruiting on Craigslist? Are you recruiting on Facebook? Are you recruiting on LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter or Career Builder and all these things? And they get so hung up on the details. All of it works. It all works. Warm market, it all works. But you're so focused on what you're doing instead of why people should be building and get them in that mindset of building. Are you recruiting producers or are you recruiting recruiters? Are you recruiting people that have a mindset of just producing, or are you recruiting people and helping them to develop a mindset of building and recruiting and let them be creative on how they do it? Brad and I, some people can, well, how do you recruit in this specific area? And most of the time I have to say, I don't know. I never recruited in that area. I never recruited that way. We recruited 100% of our recruits were warm market because we didn't know how to do cold market. I didn't know how to run a Craigslist ad. I didn't know I still don't know how to run ads. I see Miranda posting stuff on LinkedIn. I don't know how to use LinkedIn. I see the post, but I have no clue how to use LinkedIn. I hardly even know how to use Facebook still. We posted pictures, but that's about it. And so, we've gotten good at figuring out what people are frustrated with in their life and showing them a way to get there. And the way to get there is building an agency and recruiting and developing a team. So I guess that's kind of, maybe I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but no. I think these numbers are, go ahead, John.
That was perfect, to be brutally honest. And again, like even what both of you are talking about, even Brad, just activity, right? Activity eats skill set for lunch. And just kind of going back to, setting up appointments for your in-home presentation. Why do we set 15 appointments every week? Well, it's because we know that through sheer activity, that it's just a numbers game, right? That if you set 15 appointments, you're more than likely going to sit with 10 of them. And just the good old American way is that 2 or 3 people out of those 10 just don't know how to say no, right? And so it's going to be the same thing with this, is just that law of large activity. The more people you talk to, the higher the likely you're increasing your odds. And then, listening that you guys have only recruited 30 people.
Well, let me clarify that. Because I think a lot of people will hear that and they say, well, that's not a lot of people and they must not have worked very hard. That's not what I'm saying. We've actually talked to and assisted in the process of recruiting hundreds of people because our mentality is when you're a producer, that person is very fragile. If you have a team that all they're doing is production, that's a pretty fragile agency. You want to have your agent is not really locked in until they have agents. And so that was our number one goal, was locking people in by helping them build an agency and getting an override on people. So it's not all about just their own production. So we might have recruited 30, but then we're helping those people recruit 10, digging deep. And we're doing 3-ways and 3-ways and 3-ways and 3-ways the whole time. I mean, it's like constant. We were working our butts off doing 3-ways, but we're digging deep and building an agency. And a lot of times you could be building an agency for somebody that's not even that excited about it. Maybe they don't even know if the symmetry is for them. All of a sudden you find somebody that's fired up and excited, and now you just locked in a whole upline of people that were like on the fence on whether they wanted to do this or not. Nate Offer was an example of that. When Brad talked to Nate Offer, he was not going to do symmetry, but he thought, well, maybe I could refer some people to Brad and maybe there's some way to get some overrides. He didn't realize he had to have an insurance license until we found Marlon. Marlon came from a referral from Nate before Nate was even licensed. And in order for Nate to get an override, he had to go get his license. And so Marlon was on fire. He was excited. He was ready to build. He started building this agency, started bringing in tons of people. We're doing three ways, and we're recruiting tons of these people. And Nate's like, well, hold on, I'm not the Red Cross here. That's exactly what he said. I'm not the Red Cross. How do I make money on all these people? I said, well, you got to get licensed. And so what we did is we always talk about how fires are lit from the bottom up. So you don't just sit there and motivate. We couldn't have motivated Nate to do anything by just saying, hey, come on and do this and do that. And, we had to talk with somebody like Marlon and help Marlon get what he wanted, and then call Nate and say, hey, Nate, you got this guy that's on fire. You got this guy that's blowing up here. You better do something, otherwise you're going to miss out. You're going to lose him. And so that got Nate fired up, got Nate locked in, and he started recruiting more people so that he could keep his team balanced. So, that was more of our focus is, yes, we want to go out there and get those personal recruits, but if you're just focused on your personal recruits and you're not helping your team get their recruits, number one, you're building a fragile agency, but number two, you are missing out on the most valuable part about those agents. If you're doing cold market and not warm market, you are missing the most valuable part of the cold market. See, when we recruit a cold market, we understand that the most valuable thing about that cold market is the contacts in their cell phone. Because do people know people that are better than themselves? If you recruit a 6, do you think they know 7 and 8? If you recruit a 7 and 8, do you think they know 9s and 10s? And so my goal is to get to those 7, 8, 9s, and 10s that those 5s and 6s know, and get them involved in symmetry, because those are the most valuable people. That's the most valuable thing. It's not just about cold market. I mean, you can build an agency based on that, but to me, if you're not developing that, and I know you guys are great at that, is that, the warm market culture too, just like Brad and I. But if you're just doing cold market, you're missing out, in my opinion, on the most valuable part of those new recruits, and you're not locking them in.
What you're talking about, Matt, is awesome, right? And it goes back to just the symmetry way is a recruit is not a recruit until they have a recruit. And that's something that took me a little while to truly understand, because I think at one point in the very beginning, I had 26 people direct to me after about 6 months of being here, and I lost them all because I didn't instill that culture, right? And so just kind of on this topic that you're talking about, and I know I'm going off of our script here a little bit, but how do you do that? How do you get them started? Because I know that I struggled with that in the very beginning, and it's something that I can easily talk about, but maybe not necessarily wholeheartedly believe. And here's what I mean when I say that, is that I came in with this mindset and or attitude saying, you know what, I got to see if this is going to work for me before I can turn around and tell other people. I got to make sure that the deposits are real. I have to make sure that I can actually do this. I have to make sure that I can get through the trials and tribulations of the phone call. I have to make sure that I can figure out the in-home process before I can actually tell one of my buddies to get in here and try this with me. How can you, and maybe not for these particular people, but how can you help them overcome that mindset or that obstacle with their people that are coming on board?
Well, this is Brad.
That's a great question, Brad. I'll let you answer it, Brad.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I do. One is I have a very similar conversation with every new person that I talk to. Okay, first I want to know, why are you here? What's missing in your life that you want fixed? Because most people in life, that we're all running, most people are not running to anything, they're running from something. And so most people, when we're recruiting, will talk about, what are you running toward? Well, more importantly, what are you running from? So I want to know what that is. What's the problem that I can help fix? And then I ask them, how serious are you about fixing that? Well, I'm very serious about it. Okay, how soon do you want to fix that? Would you rather fix that now, or do you want to wait 5 years? I want to do it now. Okay, then we got to start building an agency right now. Okay, so if you're serious, and I'm going to determine how serious are you by your level of activity. If you're serious, I want you to put 10 people on the phone, your top 10, not any random 10. I want you to make a list. I want you to put your top 10 people on the phone with me. Just line up a three-way. Have them watch a video, put them on the phone with me. Top 10 in 7 days. If you're serious about this, I want to talk to your top 10 in 7 days. I don't care if that person's cold market or warm market. They're a person, and they're running from something. And if they're serious about getting that out of their life, then they're going to do it. So I had that conversation. If they say, well, I got to see if this is going to work for me. Okay, that's like saying, did you ever date somebody in high school and it didn't work out? Right? What did you do? Did you switch sides? Did you kind of switch? Did you give up on women or men? Or what? Was that the last one? You tried once and that's it? Okay, now, what if your marriage doesn't work out? Does that mean you're never going to recommend marriage? Does that mean your marriage isn't for anybody? No. This business, not everyone's going to be great at this business. Here's what I love about this. If you want to own the best restaurant in town, do you have to be the best chef? Do you even have to know how to cook? No, you just have to find the right people. If you wanted to own the winning football team in the NFL, would you have to be a great quarterback? No, you just have to recruit the right people. That's what this business is about. So it's not about you being good. It's about us finding good people. So does it really matter if this works out well for you? No, it doesn't. Because there's lots of people, and I give you example after example after example. See, I have people in my agency that have been here for 2 years. In fact, 1 year ago, it was about 14 months ago, we started a base shop call. It was like a coaching, accountability call with some of our top people in our base shop. It started out with 3. We ended up adding a 4th within a few weeks. And over the course of the last year, we grew that 4-man team from $50,000 a month to $350,000 a month. So in 1 year, we created basically a new 110 in 12 to 14 months. Out of those 4, 2 of them are agency owners, both of them soon to be agency directors. One of them is struggling, he might as well quit. And the other one is a good producer, but he has nobody in his team. So 2 out of 4 almost agency directors. One's a great producer and no better off than he was a year ago. And if you had asked me which one of those 4 is going to become agency owner first, it would have been the good producer that is no better off than he was a year ago. And I talked to him today, and it all comes down to belief. He said, "Do you really think I can do it?" I said, Jack, I'm waiting for you to make the decision that you want to get to 110. As soon as you tell me I'm ready to get to 110, we're going to be 50-50 partners, and I'm going to help you get there. Guaranteed, there's no questions asked. I'm looking for my next guy who wants to run to 110. I really don't personally care if it's you or if it's somebody else. I will have somebody. There will be somebody that I will help get to 110 in the next 12 to 18 months. It could be you if you make the decision to do it. But if you want to do that, I'm going to need you to follow some instructions and directions. You keep saying you want something. I want you to decide if you actually want it. And he's saying, do you really believe that I can do it? To me, it's like if my son, who's trying to learn how to ride a bike, says, do you think I can learn how to ride a bike? I just can't visualize. I can't understand how you could balance on 2 wheels. And I say, I've seen millions of people do it. It's not a question of if. It's a question of if you want it. Sure, you're going to fall down. You might skin your knees up. That's part of the process. But can you learn to ride a bike? Of course you can. It's been done over and over and over and over. We've got well over 100 agency owners. It's not a question of if this works. Symmetry is not on trial. You're on trial. The only thing we don't know is if you work. That's what we don't know. And so I kind of spin it around like that. And I just want to know, do you want it? And if you do, here's what I need you to do. And if you're not going to do it, that's okay. I'm not looking for everyone. I'm just looking for the right ones. That's it.
Love that, man. Oh, God, you guys are so good. And you simplify it. I mean, the analogies that you're using are not so complex. It's so easy for everyone to really be able to relate to. So good, man. So good. Can we kind of just switch gears just a smidge? And really kind of pushing conference coming up, right? Where I should have known the exact day, but we're right around 70 days away. Someone might have the actual day, but anyway, we're right around 70 days away from it. How would that conversation look when you're referencing kind of maybe even the warm market with kind of that intent for conference registration? I mean, what do these conversations like start to look like? Even though we're 70 days away, we're not 30 days away where it could potentially be a little bit easier to start planning, but we're 70 days away. So how intentional are you right now about talking about conference, and what does that conversation kind of look like? And I can throw that to either one of you.
Brad, I guess I can answer this one, and if you want to add to it.
Sure.
So typically, when I'm talking about getting somebody to take action, it's the same for either personal production or getting registered for conference. Anytime I'm trying to get them to take action, it's more based around leading by example rather than as why they should do it just for themselves. Because typically, it seems to be a better motivator when you're talking about, you just told me you want to build an agency, you just told me you want to be doing, let's say, $100,000 a month or $50,000 a month, then what is our goal? How many people do you want to have at conference? So I'm not asking them if they're going to conference. I'm not even talking about if they're going to conference. That's not even a question. It's not even up for conversation. That is so assumed that it's not even funny. I'm talking about, okay, so we want to get to $50,000 in a month. We need to have at least 10 people at conference. And I explained the numbers of conference. You know, statistically, for every 10 people you have at conference, you should be doing $50,000 in a month. You know, some people that might be too big of a number. So I got to figure out what their goals are, and it might be 5 people at conference or 10, you know, whatever it is. So obviously, you know, leaders lead by example. So obviously we got to get you registered. That's the first thing we have to do. And we're gonna walk through getting them registered. So it's not even up for conversation. If they told me that their goal is this, they told me that they want to build an agency, they told me that they want to leverage a team, and they don't want to have a lifestyle where they're 100% responsible for their income, then the first thing we got to do is get you registered, because nobody's going to want to do what you don't do. People do what you do, not what you say. So we got to do what we expect our future agents to do. So let's go ahead and get you registered. And then we're going to make a list of all the people that we're going to try to get to conference. And we're going to do 3 ways. We're going to get them on the phone. And we're going to have that same conversation with those people. You know, we get this mindset of not, are you going to conference, but how many people are you going to have at conference? And that started with a conversation that Casey Watkins had with Brad and I when we first joined Symmetry. Our first conference, we were so broke, we weren't even sure if we wanted to do Symmetry yet. And Casey Watkins had called, he called me and he called Brad individually. And he's like, so we got conference in a couple months. How many people are you guys going to have at conference? And that was so smart of him to do that, because we weren't even sure we were going to go to conference. But there was no way that I was going to embarrass myself and tell Casey, I'm not even sure if I'm going to go to conference. So then we talked about, I guess, you know, we're thinking maybe 5 to 10 people. Well, now, oh my goodness, now of course, the next thing I did was I went and registered for conference. Same with Brad. I'm like, well, I guess we're going to conference. So, you know, it's never even up for question on whether the person you're talking to is going. It's how many people are you going to have get there? And like I said, the same thing ties over into production. So the goal that you set, you've got to lead by example. Your team's going to do what you do, not what you say. So how fast do you want your team to take action? How fast do you want your team to recruit? You know, Brad talked about how do you get somebody to recruit more market if they're not even sure they want to, you know, if they want to create the story or whatever. Well, you're exactly right. You are creating a story. You're creating a story on how fast duplication starts. So do you want to have a team filled with people that wait a year to start recruiting? Or do you want them to do what you do and start recruiting right away? And you can, share stories. You can look at the people that started day one. You can look at people that started a year, 2 years down the road. And if you ask any one of them, what would they do differently? They would have started recruiting day one. So you are creating the story not just about production, but around duplication. So that's the motivation that we use for recruiting, for production, for getting to conference. You have to lead. Do you want to be the type of leader that leads by example? And that's the motivation for all. And when you get these guys that are doing the top of the leaderboards, a lot of them aren't even doing it for themselves. They're doing it for the story that they're creating, because we've talked about how important that story is. You know, that first 90-day story, that first 6-month story, everyone wants to know how much, how fast, how much did you make, how much production, how fast did it take you? All that's part of getting to conference. All that's part of, you know, setting your goal, sticking with your commitments. So it's all based on this story that they're creating that they can never go back and recreate. So that's, to me, that's been very effective in.
And you guys are the masters at building for conference. There's not really a lot I can add to what you guys, your whole team, you guys have that down. And one thing I love about what you're doing with this particular call is you're rewarding the right activity. And that's one of the biggest things that we do around conferences. We reward the right activity, we promote the right activity. We do incentives. So we sometimes we'll run contests, but you can't even qualify if you're not registered for conference. You can't participate in any of the fun stuff that we do if you're not registered for conference. Why? Because you're not serious. You're not serious about this business if you're not even registered for conference. I remember one of my first mentors, like 20 years, I was maybe 19 or 20 years old. And I'm listening to a conversation with him over the phone with one of his top leaders, and we were going to a conference. And this guy was making $100,000 a month at the age of 30 years old, and great promoter. And this conference is coming up like literally in a few days, and one of his top people got in a car accident and completely wrecked his car. And he called him up and said, "Man, I really want to go. I've got some people going, but I can't make it because I was in this car accident." And he said, "Oh, are you okay?" He said, "Yeah." "So you're not hurt?" He said, "No." "All right, I'll see you there." He said, "No, did you not hear what I said? I said I wrecked my car. I totaled it. I don't have a vehicle. I'm not going to make it. Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "No." "Okay, I'll see you there." He said, "No, you're not listening to me." And he said, and you guys know who this is. It's Nate. It was Nate 20 years ago. Nate Offer. It's on the phone, the other end of the phone, who got in the car accident. And he said, "Let me tell you something, Nate." He said, "Winners find solutions and losers make excuses. I guess we're going to find out which one you are in 2 days." And he hung up the phone. And what did Nate do?
Love it.
He found a solution. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who are used to buying excuses, and they might sound very legitimate, but sometimes we have to have these hard conversations that if you really want what you say you want out of this business and out of your life, you've got to be the kind of person that can overcome your own excuses and get to conference. So sometimes, and that's sometimes hard to have that conversation one-on-one, but I'll do that on a conference call. I'll share that story on a conference call, and we'll get people that say, "You know what? You're right. I buy my own excuses." So, but you guys are doing everything right. I mean, you guys have so many people going to conference, so I'd love to learn from you guys on that.
Man, well, we've clearly have learned from you guys, and the likes of Rita and Martin, and that's just all we've done. We've just taken everything that we've learned from the system and implemented it. So it's nothing special that we're doing. We're just little tidbits from everyone. All the great leaders before us. But I love what you're talking about right now, Brad, in referencing. It's like, don't be afraid to lose what you don't have. Meaning, if they're not coming to conference, the likelihood of them being around for the next one is what? Slim to none. So don't be afraid to have that tough conversation with them and maybe push a little bit harder than you normally would to get them to conference, because that can be life-changing for them, right? I mean, is that kind of the message that we're really kind of getting out there?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I know that the likelihood that they're not going to be here, like you said, is slim to none. And if my commitment to that person is to help them get to where they say they want to go, I, as a mentor, have to get them there. And it makes me sad for people when they get in their own way and they think that they have a better idea than me on how to succeed here. They say, well, I need to take that week and I need to spend it in the field. I can't afford to be out of the field. I need to spend that conference ticket price and the gas that it would take to drive there, or the plane ticket. I need to spend it on leads. And I have to tell people, you're thinking like a poor person. Poor people think either or. Wealthy people think both. If you want my opinion on how to get to where I'm at, I've done this. If you want my opinion, you've got to do both. There is an answer to do both. There is a solution for both. But you're never going to find that solution if you're not asking the question of how. If you're just saying I can't, you're never going to say, how can I have both? If you ask how you can have both, stay in the field, do production, have leads, and get to conference, you're going to figure out an answer for it. So, yeah, my job as a mentor is to get them there, because I know that I will not be able to get them to where they said they wanted to go if I can't get them to conference. That's the reality.
Well, and I'm going to add that too, Brad. I think a lot of people, when they give you an excuse, they really feel like that's a good reason. They really feel like what they just said made sense. I can't afford to go to conference. I need to stay and sell and make money. They think that actually makes sense. And to me, I tell people, not going to conference because you're broke, which to me is probably the biggest reason, either lack of time or lack of money. But to not go to conference because you don't have money is it's just as ridiculous as a sick person saying, well, I can't go to the hospital until I get better. It's just as ridiculous. And if you're not confident enough to say that the problems that you have, that's why we go to conference, is to solve those problems. And staying to work leads, I know almost for a fact that person won't be around for the next conference if they don't get there. Most people have between a 90-day and 180-day expiration date. And Symmetry, or the conference, is what it not only fires them up, it educates them, it opens their eyes. It's what gets the belief in them. So now they actually believe in the system and believe in Symmetry. If they don't have that grounded belief, then they're not going to push through those hard times that are inevitable. So if I don't get them to that conference, their roots are so weak, they're going to get blown over by the next strong wind that comes. I've got to get their roots dug into the soil more. So I'm going to be that much more confident in letting them know, hey, if you're not going to be at conference, you probably will not be here. I will tell people that. I have no problem telling people that. It's that important.
This is so good. And again, I think that this ties right into what you guys were talking about on Wednesday. You guys were talking about posture. You're talking about confidence, and you're just exuding that right now as even when you're talking to us on how you talk to your recruits. And so it's you're always practicing how you play. You're always practicing that posture until you get it right. And so in lieu of that, right, posture and confidence, can you guys just elaborate a little bit and kind of that beginning, that fake it until you make it, and maybe you can give our team here some additional language that they can use to kind of better help them attract the right people. And I know we're kind of getting into some of that first, the second interview or first interview, or trying to get a new agent application packet back in. But what is some of the language that you guys use to really kind of attract the right people? And I know you said, well, I'm okay with recruiting 5s and 6s just so I can be able to get to their 7s and their 8s. But I mean, how do we really kind of avoid staying away from the 1s and 2s, right? Because in the beginning, that desperation rises, standards fall, and it's like anybody with a heartbeat, we're just willing to accept. Oh, what'd you say? Blah, 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 right? Okay, come on board. I'm going to send you a new agent application packet back in. Then they just sound like they have marbles in their mouth, and they're probably not going to make it because it's the most important thing. So really, like, what are some of the things that you instill within your team to help them with their posture, to help them with their confidence, to really start attracting the right people? I know that was a really long question, but I wanted to make sure I got my point out there.
That's really good. First of all, it's knowing where you're going and kind of having that really clear in your mind. I loved the message, and I think most people that come to Symmetry, they're attracted to that balance of time and money. They like the idea of having the time freedom, being able to enjoy your life, being able to enjoy your family, and having a good income. And so, being able to confidently say, and in the beginning, again, we were broke. We were so far in debt. We didn't have the results. And so it's hard to sometimes have that confidence that you really need to have, that posture. And so, like I said in the call last week, I borrowed it. I had some mentors in my life that had that confidence. They had the results. And I just started to practice talking like them. I started to talk with that confidence, even though inside I didn't feel it. And it wasn't like, it's not a matter of like bragging on yourself. Like Matt said, it's a humble confidence. It's the confidence that you are going to go to where you want to go, and you're going to go with other people. You're going to bring people with you. So some of the language I use, I just had a call a few days ago by Ike Manell. If you guys have heard of Ike Manell, who's an agency director under Marlin, and this guy's a sharp guy, engineer. He was a semi-pro basketball player in Europe, and really cool guy. And he's been here for almost 2 years now. And we told him from the beginning, get us on the phone with your top 10. Well, he left off his number one guy. He never called his number one guy. And everyone probably has a chicken list that if these few people would get involved in Symmetry, it'd be game over. Well, he prejudged and said this person would never do it. They're happy. They're making good money. So he finally decided, I'm just going to call this guy. And he called him, had him watch the video. And this guy, I don't know if you guys have heard of Platinum Insurance, but Platinum is a big IMO. And he personally recruited about 60% of people that got into that company. He worked for corporate. So he's an unbelievable recruiter. And he ended up leaving and moving to another company. He makes $125,000 to $150,000 salary plus some bonus. And I asked him, and this guy, again, has recruited hundreds, if not thousands, of insurance agents. So he has gone through processes of recruiting. He knows the questions. So he could see everything I was doing. Like he knew why I was asking what I was asking. And I said, what do you like about what you're doing? What do you love? Like if you don't want to change anything, what do you love? He said, really, I love everything that I'm doing. I feel like I'm making an impact. I make a good income. We found out it's about 125 to 150. He likes everything about what he's doing. And I said, okay, what's missing? What do you feel like you don't have enough of, or you don't have it all, that in a perfect life you'd have it? And he said, man, you worded that so well. I love how you asked that. And he said, I feel like I'm worth more than I'm making right now. I feel like I should be making more than 125 or 150. And so I used that one thing that was missing throughout the rest of the call. It might have been that I don't have enough time with my family. It might have been that, whatever was missing, that's going to be the anchor. That's going to be the conversation. Everything's going to revolve around that conversation of that one thing that's missing. And I said to him, I gave him compliments, several compliments. And I do this with every person I talk to. You give them compliments because people love to be complimented. They love people who compliment them, make them feel good, right? So I said, here's what I love about you. You're good at this. You're good at that. You've got all this stuff you've accomplished before, but you feel like you're not being paid what you're worth. And so I kind of painted the picture of what life could look like doing exactly what you're doing right now. Here's what your life could look like doing that with Symmetry. And if you and I locked arms together, guaranteed it would happen. No question about it. No question. And we talked with that kind of confidence from day one. Even though we hadn't done it before, we are the kind of people, like Matt said, there's a lot of things we're really bad at. We're not good at a lot of things. but there's a couple of things that we're extremely good at. And I'll use that kind of language with people. There's a few things we are very good at. And what we're very good at is if we have a problem, we'll figure out a way to get it done. It may not be because we solved the problem. We may bring in other people who have the experience, who have the expertise, but we will win as a team. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's sports. I don't care if it's in business. We will win because that's who we are. And that's who we're looking for. We want people who have that mindset, who are ready to make a change, lock arms, and get it done. And he said, and Ike was on the phone listening, and he's like, I have a really hard time. This guy's on the phone because I asked him to be, and he loves what he's doing. I can't see him coming on board. At the end of the conversation, I said, here's what I'd like to do. I want you to come out and I want to meet you face to face. And we have a team get together we're doing in end of July. I invited him out. He's like, I'm in. I'm in. I know I'd kill it here, and you believe in me, and I think if we work together, you said if we lock arms, we can get it done. I believe you, and I'm in 100%. And it's that confidence. It's that confidence of I can help you get to where you want to go. I can't do it for you, but I'll be right there alongside of you. And you can talk with that kind of confidence, whether you've done it before or not, because you're working with the right people. You're working with Miranda and John and Ryan and all these guys they've done it. So you're following the right people. You can have that confidence, not necessarily just in yourself, but in who you're working with the team and with Symmetry. So that's John, that's the language that we're using, and that's the kind of confidence we're saying we're going to help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps. So cool. And again, I guess, the bigger takeaway there is really, you just kind of painted a perfect picture for me that I truly understand the why now, right? And kind of building it up at what they're really good at, what they're loving, and kind of pulling out some of that information to really even be able to help use with them, right? So everything that you're doing it with intention. So even the questions that you're asking on what they love, so that's so you can compliment them. So because you're right, people do feel good with the compliments, but what is that missing element? What are you really looking for? What are you striving for? And then just kind of grabbing a hold of that piece of information and using that throughout the rest of your second interview or the rest of your final interview before you grab that packet back. The psychology behind that is just absolutely brilliant. So awesome job, guys. And I know that we're coming up at the top of the hour here, and just kind of in respect of your time, I'm going to kind of limit this to one last question here. And I'd love for you guys to kind of dig deep. Why? For everyone on this call right now that hasn't put that best foot forward into really kind of recruiting, why? Can you just share with them, like, why do it? Why go through the trials and tribulations? Why go through all of the no's? Why push yourself to this certain extent that is so uncomfortable for you? Like, why do this? Why recruit? Why build? Why do it? Why did you guys do it?
It's a great question. Matt, you want to answer it, or you want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, it's probably different for both of us, but for a long time I struggled with figuring out what my why was. And in the beginning, and I'm talking about before Symmetry, actually, when I was early 20s, mid 20s, what's my why? And I would think, well, maybe it's my future family. I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I really struggled. And when I came into Symmetry and everything had come crashing down and we were so broke and so in debt, I really had to take a step back and say why. And for me, if I was 100% honest with myself, it was not actually because of my wife or because of my, I didn't have a daughter at the time, my future kids. It was because it was integrity. It was character. It was, I've got one life, and I've got choices that I can make to be the best version of me that I could possibly be. And to me, it's the why do the right thing when no one's looking? Why continue to get back up when you fall down? This is my one shot at life. Who do I want to be in this life? Who do I want to become? This is the family name that I'm representing. This is my character. Do I want to have the character of a winner, or do I want to have the character of a loser that, and pardon my language, but this is what I would tell myself, a loser that's just going to make excuses all the time. A loser that's going to say, well, I'm going to do this, and then next week I change my mind because I feel differently, because I don't want to do, I don't feel like doing it. That's character in my mind. That's a perfect example of lack of character, lack of integrity. When you tell somebody you're going to do something, do they believe that you're actually going to do it and follow through? And here's an even better question. Do you believe it? When you tell yourself that you're going to make a commitment and follow through, do you believe yourself? And if you don't, there's a problem with that. And I got to that point when I was starting Symmetry. Do I actually believe that I'm going to follow through even when the feelings are gone? Even when the excitement dies away, even when I don't feel like doing it anymore, even when things don't go as planned and my top guy might quit or several people in my team quit, do I have the character and the integrity to follow through and do it because I committed to it, because I am a winner? And to me, that really was my why. It didn't matter if obviously my wife and I have a great relationship, so I'm not saying this, but if my wife had left me, was my why going to go away? No. If my daughter passed away, was my why going to go away? No. It didn't matter anything exterior that happened, because that wasn't my true why. My true why was internal. It's who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And that's still what keeps me going today. People sometimes ask me that now. Well, you guys are making 6 figures a month. You don't have to go out in the field. You don't have to do, you're going on vacations all the time. Why keep doing it? That's why. I'm still always striving to become the best version of me that I can possibly be. And that includes getting out of my comfort zone, growing, doing things that maybe I never thought I'd be doing, but it's all part of that growing process and becoming, continuing to become better and better and better, and being a person of high integrity no matter what, even when no one's looking. So to me, that is my why.
And just to add on to that, I think that's what John Maxwell was talking about at this last conference. That's why he doesn't like to set these destinations. Like, a lot of people get so focused on hitting 110 as a destination. When they get there, there's no other reason to keep going. That's drawing your own finish line. You're only finished if you draw the finish line. And always striving to become better, that's not a finish line. It's something that we can always continue to do. And I think, you said that our reasons for doing this, for our why, are different. They're not. It's Tony Robbins says that the strongest human motivator that exists in our minds is to be true to who we are. Now, that's actually true. It's true to who you see yourself to be. So you get people who are, they're chain smokers and they cannot quit. The reasons they can't quit, or somebody that's overweight and they've always been overweight and they go on a diet and they go back. And, you can quit for so long, but then you always go back. It's because that's how they see themselves. That's how they identify themselves. They don't say, I smoke. They say, I'm a smoker. They don't say, I happen to be overweight. They say, I'm fat. That's who I am. It's their identity. And that's the strongest motivator, is to always be true to who you are. So even though I was failing so much in my life, there were certain things that I knew without a shadow of a doubt of who I am. I am a person of character. I am a person of integrity. I am a good father. I am a good husband. And these are things. So even though I am unsuccessful, I am terrible at managing a business, whether I want to admit it or not. There's evidence. There's evidence that I'm terrible at that. And so I could identify myself with the good or with the bad. And I think what we ended up doing on a psychological level is we started really identifying with, being successful here at Symmetry went hand in hand with me being a good father. It went hand in hand with me being a good husband. It went hand in hand with me having character and integrity. That's who I am. Nobody can convince me otherwise. And as soon as we started identifying being successful here at Symmetry is hand in hand with who I am. Why do I have to succeed here? Because that's who I am. It's not because it's what I want or why I'm doing it. That's who I am. And it's the strongest motivator. So if you can't figure out why you're doing this, attach it to a piece of who you are deep down that nobody can convince you otherwise. Marry the two together. So I think the answer is pretty similar, Matt.
Man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys spending this last hour and 12 minutes with us. It was this is one that's going to go in the archives that I will definitely listen to over and over and over again. And I mean that. Integrity, definitely. Character, definitely. The two of you are just a force to be reckoned with, and so grateful for the friendship that is definitely evolving, and the partnership that has evolved. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I can't tell you how much this is going to impact our team and many agents moving forward in a big push to conference. So truly grateful for this time that you spent with us. Mur, is there anything that you want to add before we depart here?
No, I would just second what you just said there. Thank you so much. There's so many things that I was writing down in notes while you guys were talking, and a lot of it is very similar to what we train on, but it's articulated in an amazing way. So I know for me, one of the highlights was the passion that you guys have behind the why of your agents, and just really digging in on that and finding out what's important to your agents and then helping them get that. I think right there, I think that's one thing that if you have your heart in the right place for your agents, they know that, and now you're just all working towards one common goal. And I think Zig Ziglar says when you help other people get what you want, or what they want, then you ultimately will get what you want. So just so amazing. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it goes right back to the core values. Relationships matter and people come first, and you guys are just preaching that message here loud and clear throughout the last hour that you guys have been speaking. It's right. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and you guys are just living and dying by that statement. And it's something that I think that we can all just really take to heart here and hold and nurture, right? And move forward with that, and truly just put everything aside, put your greed aside, put your hunger to build aside, and truly just take a moment, right? Smell the flowers and actually just be in the moment with the person that you're talking to. Love the one you're with. And I think that is such a powerful message. So guys, thank you so much for the time that you just spent here. Outside of that,
absolutely. Thanks to you guys too. We need to have you guys on one of our calls too. I love this kind of team collaboration here, and you guys do so much to add value as well. And I mean, there's a lot of things. It's funny when you get people, even though you might be preaching the same thing, you do it in a little different way, and it can touch somebody in a way that it didn't before. So we want to build on that too, and have you guys on one of our calls if you guys are willing to do that, which I know you are. But we'd love to have you guys on one of our calls.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. We're anything that we can do for you guys, we will 100%. So thank you guys so much. And again, we're gonna do this next week. And so let's get a big push for this conference registration as we read off those leaderboards. Get your names up there at the top. And again, for just like Miranda was saying, for those of you that don't even have yours filled out yet, let's go ahead and figure out exactly what we need to do in order to get yourself registered first, and then a big push for your team starting today. So again, same time next week. Thank you all so much, Matt and Brad. A special thanks to you guys. And just like I said, anything that we can do for you, please let us know. We're 100% on board with you guys. Everyone, let's have it make it a great day. We got our builders call starting in 14 minutes on the national call line. So everyone hop on that. Outside of that, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.